Thank you for staying with us. Time now for us to get into the news review, and we're joined by Jantuah. She is General Secretary of the Convention People's Party. She'll be joining us shortly, but before that, as always, it is only fitting that I let you know this segment is brought to you kind courtesy of Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. So they are offering free prostate screening, free female fertility screening as well across their branches dotted across the country. They are here in Accra at Spintex opposite the Shell signboard, then in Kumasi, Kronomabwe behind the Angel Educational Complex, Takrade, Anaji State, Tema Community 22, Techiman Hanswa, and Esiama Enzima. Reach them on these numbers, 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. And we're grateful that you've taken the time to join us as we get into those all-important matters. But that very serious matter we're going to be contemplating this morning at the second leg of our big stories. Axim and what happened there. I've got calls from different people in security, people in governance, even members of parliament on that matter. And I find it shocking. I've never seen anything like this, at least at this level before. Police officers kneeling down, engaging, negotiating, begging galamseyers. Begging them. They are supposed to enforce the law. Apparently, there had been some sort of operation, whether sanctioned or not. And you could tell from the rhetoric that these galamseyers had some sort of relationship, understanding with the galamseyers. And this particular one, who appears to be the leader of the team in the truck pickup, if you like, with the police officers, accosts them, claiming they had wanted to take him away, maybe to a police station. And that it was only upon the intervention of others, a motorbike that crossed, that they had to stop. And now they haul these police officers out and manhandle them. How did we get here? How exactly did we get to this point? It beats my imagination, it boggles my mind. The police has come out with its own statement. 4 of those gentlemen have been apprehended. Investigations will be pursued as far as the officers are concerned at the Police Professional Standards Bureau. And I'll say it, sometimes you take matters there. I've taken 2 matters there to the Professional Standards Bureau. One, something that happened on the road with reckless, crossing over by a police pickup. Nothing came out of that. Eventually, the officer came begging and all of that. That was the end of the story. Those 2 police officers who, by the way, had lied through their teeth, and I have evidence. One of my directors who was here, who was with me in the vehicle. We went to the Police Professional Standards Bureau. We had to let go of that because it was not going anywhere. It was clear, especially when the begging came in. The second one, I pursued it when there was that shooting at North Kanishi. I'm beginning to wonder. Dr. Dampare is doing a yeoman's job, but some of these things that keep happening take away from the good things he's doing. And I think, Mr. IGP, Dr. IGP, that you should seriously look at some of these activities. And when these happen, the punitive measures shouldn't be glossed over, shouldn't be overlooked. Because what I saw on tape left me with a lot to be desired. Very little to be desired. And that is my little message this morning to the IGP. But before we get into the Daily Graphic newspaper, Jantuah is on board with us. Nanaya, very good morning to you.
Good morning to you, my dear. How are you?
I am very well. How about you?
I'm well by the grace of God.
It's interesting. It's just a few days ago that you were here and I saw you, and today you're back on my own show. I usually do this, especially when it's been a long time since we interacted. What is your economic situation like? And quickly, how would you react to, I don't know whether you heard me going on and on about that situation to do with the police officers in Axim. In about a minute and a half, if you can just combine the two.
Thank you. Good morning to your viewers and good morning to your production team. Good morning to my CPP comrades and good morning to the people of Ghana.
Right.
Certainly, my economic situation is not the best. You know what it is like these days. I mean, go to the market and prices have increased so badly. And to also think that there's a 20% increase on beverages, including bottled water. Everybody takes bottled water.
Right.
And can you imagine what it is like to have 20% on bottled water? These are not very good times. The issue at Axim, that is the policeman who was ambushed by some people, and they said that he has taken their money or duped them. I mean, the policeman used very good skills. I mean, on the spur of the moment, I told myself, why is he not using his gun? But he did very well by trying to persuade them not to hurt him. He incapacitated the opponent. But that is not, for us not to be afraid of the police and to be able to attack the police the way it was done, no matter what it is unacceptable. And the IGP, as you said, should be up and doing to deal with the situation. It needs to be dealt with. This kind of indiscipline of the civilian against the police is not good enough. The police too should be above reproach. I mean, they shouldn't put themselves in a situation whereby they have to be accosted or be molested by civilians. They live in our community. When they remove that uniform, they become civilian. And they have friends, they do interact. So they need to be very careful how they conduct themselves in the communities.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts on these matters. Let's now get into the Daily Graphic newspaper and some interesting stories there. BPA Bui Sugar Limited set up 1D1F Sugar Factory. That story is on page 20. Parliament passes 3 revenue bills, and that story on page 16. Free SHS policy must focus on skills development. Professor Suman says so. The banner headline, the main story there, add guarantor system. MPs against sole use of Ghana card for voter registration. Political analysts, smaller parties agree. And then, on the back page of the paper, Razak's brace wins day for Olympics. They beat Brecum Chelsea by 2-1. There are also other results there. Accra Lions losing to King Faisal by 1-0. And Kotoko versus RTU. Of course, that's a late kickoff. And that game played. So we'll get back to the sporting stories. But let's start from the banner headline of the Daily Graphic. Now it says, Parliament has rejected the Electoral Commission's use of the Ghana card as the sole source of identification to register people onto the voters' register. The House unanimously recommended to the EC to include the guarantor system in the public elections, that is the Registration of Voters Regulation 2023, before it could present it for consideration. Legislators were of the view that unless and until the challenges confronting the issuance of the Ghana card were dealt with, using the card as the only medium of voter registration would negatively impact the electoral roll and thereby deny some otherwise qualified persons from voting or registering to vote. Quote, the EC should tarry slowly until every eligible voter is afforded the opportunity of registering and procuring the Ghana card before the legislation of such a compulsion. The MPs agreed last Friday. For you, Nanaya, last week I saw in the Daily Graphic, I believe, some talk about some of the smaller political parties, or the political parties, so to speak, saying that, well, they didn't have too much of an issue with that particular matter. There was a stance of the MPP, the CPP, I beg your pardon. I have forgotten exactly what it was, whether you were for or against or somewhere in the middle. Tell me, what do you make of this CI and how do you react to what the parliamentarians have voted for?
Thank you very much. The CPP has 3 stands on this one. The first one is that the Ghana card, we are not against the usage of the Ghana card, and the Ghana card is legislated to be used for registration of voters. And we are saying that there should be a synchronization between the platform of the EC and the NIA, so that the EC would know exactly who is registered. We also said that the EC and the NIA should collaborate in a manner that as they are registering people or those who are eligible to be registered, the NIA should be with them, so that if anybody comes to the center and they do not have the Ghana card, they can be registered. The synchronization that we're talking about, it should be to the effect that the EC will see who has been registered under the NIA so that they can register them. How is this going to work? We said at our central committee, we agreed that there should be a code for each person, even if the card is not printed. There should be a code for each person who does what, who has registered. We also said that the guarantor system cannot be cancelled. The CPP is saying that it should even be legislated so that it is a form of like it's a force. It is mandatory for the EC to, it shouldn't be let loose. The parliament should legislate it. It should be in some form of law. They will decide which of the laws to amend, either to amend the NIA law or to amend the political parties, whichever law that has to be amended, or amend the CI to include the guarantor system. Because as you said, it came to the fore during our meeting that those in the hinterlands, there are people who are in villages who do not have access to the district office to even go and do a Ghana card. So the point is that we agree that the guarantor system should be maintained. Because even with the Ghana card, it came up that if you are doing a Ghana card, you have to go through, one of the options is to go through a guarantor system.
Right. So on that
completely?
system, the guarantor system being retained, I think in the previous CI we're talking about 5 people or so, and then if I recall correctly, if memory serves, Dr. Afari-Gyan, can you hear me now?
Yes, I'm saying that it has to be, legislated again. We even wish it's not in the CI, but in some law, an ally.
So the point I'm making is that as far as the guarantor system is concerned, I think you could do up to about 5 people or so, and now it required 5 people. In the latest one, there was that proposal that I think by Dr. Afari-Gyan that it should be a maximum of 3. What do you make of that? That was the question I wanted to just.
The number is okay, but as long as maintained, the modalities can be worked out. Because they should use the same system, because they are saying that the system is porous. But the EC should also recognize that as they have brought this issue up, most people are against it. So what you have to do is to tighten the controls so that it is not abused. Because if the one for the Ghana card is not abused, the same system can be used. So that at the end of the day, those who do not have the Ghana card will be able to also register. The issue is also that the people who we are talking about are the unregistered 18-year-olds. You know, when you are 16, you can get a Ghana card. I believe the NIA should do some work for us to know how many of the young ones have the Ghana card and those who do not have. Because this registration is not for everybody. The 15 million or so on the roll who voted in 2020, their names are there in the register. It will not change. We are looking at those who are unable to vote to register, the young ones who are coming on board. But some young ones, they have it already because in school, they use it to do their Momo transactions from their parents. So the NIA should also do some work. As we want the guarantor system to be maintained, they should also do some work to tell us that the new people, the young ones, how many of them are registered? Then the EC2 should let us know the others who are not registered. What is the number? Not concentrating only on the young ones, because at that time, let's assume people had traveled, they were out of the country. They couldn't register. Some people were far away, like what we are talking about. The EC should mop up all these data so that we know exactly what we are dealing with. But as it stands, we have 3 issues to deal with. They should synchronize, the EC and the NIA should synchronize their platforms. They should make available officers. They should collaborate to bring officers of the NIA to their centers when they are registering. Also, they should not abolish the Ghana card, but rather even legislate it further.
Well, let's get into some other stories. We'll start from page 16. Parliament passes 3 revenue bills, and Parliament has approved 3 major tax bills targeted at bolstering the sustainable generation of domestic revenue for the country. The bills are the excise duty and excise stamp, or excise tax stamp. That is the Amendment Bill 2022, the Income Tax Amendment number 2 Bill in 2022, and the Growth and Sustainability Levy Bill 2022. Now, the trio, which was passed under certificates of urgency, is projected to complement the government's efforts to raise more than 4 billion Ghana cedis annually, more like 3.8 billion, but it could approach around 4 billion. What do you make, Nanaya, of the approval of these 3 bills, especially when the minority had shown some opposition? But per what we gather, at a point, some members of the minority walked out. It even appears that at a point, the majority side did not have all 137 in Parliament, yet the votes were passing and the figure 137 was being bandied around. In fact, per the Daily Graphic, during the considerations of the bills, the minority leader, Dr. Kasialato Forson, justified why his caucus was opposed to the passage of the 3 tax bills, saying they would impose more burden on the ordinary Ghanaian businesses and financial institutions. Yet, with the number of 136 on the side of the minority, they could do nothing. And all of these bills passed. Some have suggested that there were some discussions with the leadership of Parliament on allowing these bills to pass. But for you, from where you sit, should we have approved them at this time when the ordinary Ghanaian is suffering this much? And what do you make of the positioning of the NDC? Another failure on their part in Parliament?
The point is that if you approve this bill at this time, it's a bit insensitive because times are hard. And as I was saying before, if you put 20% on beverages, including bottled water, and I believe that packaged water will also include sachet water, which is drunk by majority of the people. When this happens, you are even bringing up a health issue, because then people cannot afford it, Ghanaians cannot afford it, and they will resort to taking water from sources which are not wholesome. And I mean, it appears as if that is the easier way out, because there is no way you will not drink water. And when we don't have our taps flowing all the time, certainly you will depend on these sources of water, or bottled water, the dispenser and the small bottles, and the sachet water. That one is not good enough. I don't see how government should put 20%. Because, for instance, today the dispenser is 23 cedis. So if you put 20% on it, you are talking about 1/5 of the amount. You are talking about 5 to 6 cedis. And if you put that amount, you are going into almost 30 cedis to 27 cedis. That is a lot. How many people can buy that? So I think that it is a bit insensitive. It should not have been passed at all. You should find other ways of generating revenue, opening the tax net. Nobody is saying you should not tax Ghanaians, but you should open the tax net. This is the same government that said that they are going to use production, not taxation. And now they are taxing us to our throats. And it is a very unfortunate situation. Income tax, already those at the higher brackets are paying about 25%. Those at the lower brackets are paying about 15%. So you add 20% across board. It means that if you are the higher bracket, 45% of your salary is going into taxes. Then it means you have even eroded the daily minimum wage that was given. Because at the very low end, they don't pay any taxes. That's about 446 Ghana cedis, whoever is at the very low end. But going forward, you pay more. So even the 14 cedis of a daily minimum wage has been eroded. And how can that be? That you are burdening the people who pay taxes instead of widening the tax net. The tax net should be widened so that there are other people who don't pay taxes at all. Some of these food vendors, they don't pay taxes. We should look at these areas where taxes are not paid. Yes, they said it's going to rake in 3.8 billion Ghana cedis a year. It will be like the e-levy. Because, for instance, as for the income tax, people cannot run away from it. But as for the water, Ghanaians can decide not to drink bottled water and sachet water. Then you are going to bring a health issue. You are going to bring cholera. Because if they cannot afford, they go elsewhere to find. I think this government should be a bit sensitive to the needs and plight of Ghanaians. Yes, I also heard there's a conditionality for us to get to the IMF. If we have mismanaged the economy like this, and we are where we are, that we cannot even go to IMF, how then can you burden Ghanaians in this manner? I mean, it is an unfortunate situation. For Parliament, what happens there, we do not know. They have their own rules and regulations that would let somebody who wasn't around to be part of the process and be 137, 136. And I believe that the NDC in Parliament, they should do better than what they are doing now. There should be some form of resistance. Because they represent the constituencies, even the MPP parliamentary, they represent constituencies. At the end of the day, they'll go to their people. The constituencies who are being burdened are the same people who voted for them. So I want a day to happen where the MPP and the NDC will all say that we stand for Ghana. And this is for Ghanaians, so we need to do it right. So if they all resisted it, there's nothing wrong with it. We should not be too partisan. We should look at the principle behind it. So, I mean, if for instance, the MPP would say, today, for this one, we are not going with it. Because it is very, very burdensome. Times are really, really hard. Medical bills, food bills, the cost of living is very, very
Tell me
high.
about it. Now, one thing you may not have mentioned as we get ready to move on, those who are on bank facilities, trust me, it's becoming stifling. People
Those
keep coming. Bank facilities, bank loans.
Interest rates.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, as the monetary policy rate keeps getting tweaked. Recently, when the 150 basis points were added on to make it 29.5% or so, people had their hearts in their mouths because, look, I know of people whose salaries now, from last year till now, and the add-ons, whose salaries are not up to what they require every month to service their debt. Can you imagine that? And I'm speaking based on fact, my interactions with people and banks. The banks. I was at a bank on Friday, and that is what they told me. There are even people now, what the rate is, their salary, which they used to take out from, does not suffice. So it literally means a person like that will now have to top up, find money from some papa.
Where are you going to find the money?
No, but that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
the banks will also, need their money unless you have some arrangement with them. So you will now have to do papa to get some money to top up on your salary so the banks can get their money. And then what will you eat? What will you use for your utilities? What will you use for medication?
I am saying that where are you going to, because then people will start engaging in all kinds of corrupt practices. Because if they are unable to, to survive, they are unable to suffice, then at the end of the day, they will find ways, loopholes in their workplaces to be stealing money, which is wrong.
Well, let's make tracks. Speaker declares Kumau seat vacant. That story is on 18. Calls for by-election. And the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Sumana Kingsford Bagming, has declared the seat of the New Patriotic Party Member of Parliament for Kumau, Philip Basua, vacant. Of course, we know of that sad incident. May his soul rest in perfect peace. 2 MPs allege diversion of funds for Afram Plains Road, but Roads Ministry debunks the assertion. I'm talking about Betty Nanefia Crosby Mensah, MP for Afram Plains North, and the MP for Afram Plains South, Joseph Apiabuating. They are lamenting this situation. They have accused the government of allegedly diverting $98 million meant for the construction of the Adoso, Echi, Amanfrom, Donkokrom roads. A statement signed by the two alleged that currently the government was making arrangements to divert the approved funds for the construction of bypasses on the Accra-Kumasi highway from Osino to Konongo. And so, robbing Peter to pay Paul? I don't know. Let's get into other stories. The Ghanaian Times newspaper, gangsters attack police, seize magazine, mobile phones, 4 grabbed. I started off on that story. We've already touched on it. Our prioritized party needs, that according to Dr. Kwabena Dufo, and 3 newly passed tax bills to rake in 4 billion Ghana cedis annually. These are stories we've already taken a look at. I just want to get to this story here. Okra water. And yes, it is okra, not okro. For the first time, I'm seeing at least some paper capturing the right thing. Okra water helps lessen diabetes symptoms. It's a piece by Professor Raphael Nyakote Obu. It's an interesting article that I would like you to check out if you have the time. That will be it for the Ghanaian Times newspaper. On the back page, sports, as I've already mentioned. The Daily Guide newspaper. NPP decides on presidential race as Stephen Ntim, the chairman of the party, pictured there. I'll bring you some details on that. Health Service revokes Okobeng's award. And Atsim cops caught in galamsey drama. I'll just ask though, like I was hinting at, I have personally taken some aggrieved citizens. One when I was aggrieved, another one when someone else was aggrieved, to the Police Professional Standards Bureau, what used to be PIPS. They are in the Nima police station. Their office is there. Sometimes you take matters there, and I have very good friends in the police, but you take matters there and it's almost as though, oh, Jaimananka, or this, or we'll go through the processes. And you don't get to see the end of the tunnel. What happens in the end? For me, that is problematic. What would you, Nanaya, like to see as far as these police officers are concerned? Because it is clear from what we see that there was some relationship between them and these galamseyers who now had turned on them. What would you like to see in this matter?
I've heard there's an investigation going on, and I believe the police should come up. It doesn't matter who is involved. If their people are guilty, they should be able, they have their own rules and regulations. We have laws in Ghana that should be able to punish them. Nobody is above the law. So I believe that the proper investigation should be done. There should be no interference, especially where the issue of galamsey has come up. Galamsey has destroyed our water body so badly that, I mean, today we don't even have the water to process for us to drink. The Ghana Water Company needs so much chemical to be able to make the water that comes into our homes wholesome. So the right investigation should be done, and it should be done without, devoid of any form of favoritism or friendship. And that whoever is guilty should be brought to book. They should not put their mind to only the civilians. They should also look at the police people as well. As I said before, when a policeman removes his uniform and he's in the community, he becomes a civilian. And if you are not careful as a policeman, you are not disciplined, you might get involved with some of the issues that go around you. So I think that the proper investigation should be done, and it should be done swiftly so that we get an answer to the issues. And they should also put in place measures so that it will not happen again. It's not very good for the image of the police for something like this to happen. And who knows, if the policeman, somebody can kill somebody can use a gun and all that in this kind of a situation.
Right.
So I think that the PIPs should be up and doing. And if the PIPs, I mean, they lack some form of wherewithal or authority, I mean, to work, I think that the IGP should give it to them.
Right. To wrap with the next few stories in the Daily Guide and the Finder newspaper. Ifyatenge heads for Parliament after resignation. You know, this information came out on April the 1st, and it left some scratching their heads, wondering whether this wasn't someone's April Fool's Day prank. But it turned out not to be. And the Superintendent of Police, Ifyatenge, has resigned from the Ghana Police Service, having taken an appointment in Parliament to head the newly formed Directorate of Media Relations, which has been carved out of the Public Affairs Department. She had served with the Ghana Police Service.
What's the name of the department?
So the Directorate of Media Relations, that is what she's going to head. It has been carved out of the Public Affairs Department. And that's what she's going to head, that directorate. And so her 18-year stint with the Ghana Police Service comes to an end. NLA staff busted over fraud, and 3 persons, including staff of the National Lottery Authority, are in the grips of the national security for unlawful liquidation of lottery wins. According to the information available to the Daily Guide, officials from the National Signals Bureau stormed the Fortune House headquarters of the NLA to take over its service and interrogate staff of the IT department to uncover what it believed to be illegal transactions on the NLA IT systems. It is alleged that following investigations by the NSB into some unusual liquidation of wins, 2 suspects were picked up at various locations, leading to the arrest of an IT staff of the authority. So right now, the lotteries to Kululu come inside. The final story I'll leave you with, IMF deal, revenue bills passed. Last hurdle is bilateral Eurobond creditors agreement. Any quick thoughts on these stories as we go?
I am interested in Efia going to Parliament. As a professional, when these departments are carved out and they are separate, it brings a lot of conflict. And I believe that Parliament has clear work for them, job descriptions, because media relations normally sits with the Office of the Public Relations or Public Affairs. And now you have carved out a directorate just for media relations. Then, I mean, it has to be very clear. There should be fine lines. There shouldn't be a thin line. There should be clear, bold, fine lines so that there is no conflict. Because if you don't put bold, clear, fine lines, then you notice that they go into each other's area and there is a conflict, which sometimes is not very pleasant. Congratulations to Madame Efia for her new position, and I know that she will do a very good job. I mean, NLA, it involves money. If you have the situation in which we are now, people will be forced to do all manner of things to get to survive. Once they find the loophole, and I believe that all these loopholes should be blocked. We should not allow it to happen. Then we bring in the investigative body. Whoever heads an institution should know that they are working with human beings, and some of these loopholes should be blocked, right, so that at the end of the day, nobody will have the opportunity to steal or engage in corrupt practices. Right.
Nanaya, we're grateful that you took the time to join us this morning, and we look forward to the next opportunity of engaging you, Madam. Nanaya Jantuah, of course, the General Secretary of the Convention People's Party. I just have to sneak in this bit. Sam Jonah, Chancellor of the University of Cape Coast, is cautioning against draconian measures and policies in the country's quest to revive the economy. He says our policies must not go to exacerbate the existing struggles our citizens are facing. That's what he's been saying lately, and that's in the Ghanaian Publisher newspaper. Right before I sign off for sports, though, it was interesting. Yesterday at Mass in the evening, I met this little girl and her mother. She came to me, hugged me, and all of that. I found out that she watches this show every morning together with her grandma before she leaves for school. So to little Ikuya, I know you're watching me this morning, you together with Grandma Teresa. I am very glad that you take the time every morning to watch us before you go to school. God bless you and have a wonderful day. Before we go as well, Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic is offering you free prostate screening and free female fertility screening. Locate them in Accra, Spintex opposite the Shell signboard, Kumasi Kronoma Bwehia behind the Angel Educational Complex, Takra De Anaji Estate Tama Community 22, Techiman Hanswa and Esiama Enzima. The numbers to call 0244 867 068 or 0274 234-321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. In the English Premiership yesterday, Manchester United losing to the Magpies by 2-0. And of course, Chelsea also losing out there. Well, we'll be bringing you details of all of that in sports. Also, a happy birthday to Mr. Isaac Yaote Akon Jr., a.k.a. Godfather of Pool of TUC and Dansuman. Keep fit. God richly bless you on your birthday. On that note, let's settle for sports up next.